So, Marvel's Black Widow.
I'm not looking forward to discussing this one.
I'm not looking forward to discussing this one. I'm not forward to looking to discuss this one.
Oh, but I think we're not looking forward to it for different reasons.
Hello and welcome back to the Full Fat Podcast with me, Matt Whittle, and my co-hosts Charlie Lee and Terry Merkin. We've got Black Widow coming up. We've got Loki episode 5 coming up. But first of all,
but most importantly,
Charlie, I think there's something we really need to cover it. Charlie, what is it?
It's coming home. It's coming.
It's
home.
coming home. It's coming.
Football's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming.
Southgate, the legend, the man, the myth,
home.
the legend,
the man for the job.
The man for the job.
We can't do like a choral version because the lag would just be horrific.
We can't do a cool version because me and Terry can't sing. I mean, me and Charlie can't sing. Terry
Yeah, I
can
love
sing.
that. I froze the song so that Matt could join in. I stopped halfway, didn't I? I was like, "It's coming." Matt joined it. I just caught up with it, but yeah.
Complete synergy. When we watch it back later, it's just going to sync up so nicely.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, Gareth, you're the one. You used to turn me on. He's coming home again.
Football is coming home.
I spoke to Terry's dad about the football. As you know, I'm not really that much of a sporty person, but the one thing that Terry's dad did say to me a few weeks ago before all this crazy malarkey was that Gareth Southgate, he's the man for the job. Well, Eddie, I think you're completely right. He is the man for the job. And I think some Italians are going to cry on Sunday.
I think so too.
I can't wait for next week's podcast for us to be completely shattered and proven wrong, as we do.
I think you guys are being a bit optimistic.
That's the whole point.
That's the point.
None of the other...
Right.
Look, if you're listening from anywhere other than the UK right now, I'm going to break it down for you, right? We all know that we're pretty mediocre at football as a nation. We all know there's multiple countries that care about it way less, that are way better at it. The reason why we go on about it's coming home is because it's funny. Because it's going to be hilarious next week if we're all losers. And we all did this big hoo-ha.
Like when I got home last night, when the football died down, there was like honking of car horns. I could hear like singing and cheering outside my window, from like
beautiful.
far away.
It brings the country together. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's probably the only time the nation will come together.
Yeah,
unless next year Southgate, who is the man for the job, takes us all the way to the World Cup finale.
It's true.
He almost did it before.
He did. This is it's incredible. Never in our lifetime have we gone to the finals.
What's pissing me off though is the lack of waistcoat.
yeah. He's gonna rock it out for
Where's
the final
the waistcoat?
game. Surely.
Oh, well, like he's not been wearing it in like an old man Logan way. Old man Logan. Like when he finally pops the claws, you're like, yes.
He's only been managing at like 50%, but like with the waistcoat, he's like 100%, isn't it? So there's Italians who got it. Yeah. They got it coming.
He's like the Anakin Skywalker of football managers. And he is going to bring it home.
It's true. He has the dark past of missing the penalty as well.
What if the Italians have the high ground? Then what's he going to do?
Ooh.
Then he's fucked.
He is fucked about the high ground. Well, luckily football is all played on an even pitch. There's no high ground.
Yeah, it's true.
And we thought about that one. They thought about that one.
I just can't wait to sing it "Staying Home." You know, is that what we got to do after? I imagine we should sing it "Staying Home" all the time.
We then sing "I'm going home."
It's home. It's home.
Football is home.
As riveting as a podcast about football would, I'm sure, be to everybody. Shall we move on to what our podcast is really about?
Well, I think me and Matt are a bit hungover, so that's why it was a bit intense last night.
Yeah, I'm. You talk about Gareth managing at 50%. I'm currently managing at 50%.
Yeah,
I'm hanging out my arsehole.
Definitely.
And I'm going to really need this metabolic tea to get me through the podcast today.
You're both Terry. It's because you're getting old now. You're getting inching closer to 30 and you can't handle your hangovers anymore.
Terry, I was going to get Charlie to snop the plot, but since you are so keen on wrecking me today, I think you can do it. So episode 5 of Loki, why don't you start us off?
5 of Loki. This is the Full Fat podcast after all, not the Terry Merkin podcast, unfortunately.
Could have fooled me.
So, I think the hosts should synopt.
All right then, fine. I didn't want to have to do it, but Loki episode 5 begins with old Loki, aka classic Loki, and kid Loki and boastful Loki on the run because they're lunch. And we then cut to Eliath, which is this giant cloud monster. And basically, our Loki is stuck at the end of time, at sort of the dumping ground of the universe, where Eliath just scoops up all of the things that have been pruned by the TVA. And it's this weird, fun adventure full of hijinks where Loki gets to meet several other Lokis, King Loki, Gator Loki. And not only that, but I think the character development in this episode was fantastic, between him positioned with a Loki that killed Thor, him positioned with a Loki that got so old that he realised he wanted nothing more than to be by Thor's side. And then, of course, the whole B-plot with Sylvie trying to get back to him so that they can all rendezvous together. And then, of course, the glorious purpose at the end, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit, with Mr. Richard E. Grant.
Fantastic.
That got a bit away from me at the end, but I hope viewers, that it's because this episode was fucking fantastic, and so much of it genuinely excites me. I've not been this excited probably about an MCU project since Infinity War, really.
We did have an instance of Matt not quite jumping because he was sat, but bouncing up and down in his seat, saying it had no business being this good, and this was Doctor Who. So... Great.
I don't usually like to say something has no business being that good, because I think it kind of implies you should have highbrow art, lowbrow art. But it slipped out of me because I just never thought in a million years, out of the 3 Disney Plus shows, that Loki would be the best one. I never thought in a million years, when I was sat watching Avengers in 2012, thinking that we would one day get Tom Hiddleston Doctor Who, aka as Loki. I never thought we'd get any of those things. And not only have we gotten that, but we've gotten more things that you never could have even dreamed of. It has turned into the first proper live action into the Blankverse, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
We know that Flash is bringing all the Batmen in. We know that Spider-Man's doing it with in live action after doing it in Spider-Verse. But Loki, in true mischievous fashion, has slipped underneath everyone else and done it first.
And they somehow kept it all totally secret. Never in any world did we suspect that there would be all these Lokis. And it was so good to see them. And when President Loki came in, I'm glad he didn't stick around, but I thought it was really fun. And when you're battling with yourself, you're obviously just going to go round and round and round in circles. So I love that they just perpetually live in this world where they're just betraying each other and trying to get on top. It was so
of course, they betray each other every day of the week.
Yeah.
I think the only point of criticism I would have on that scene is just that when boastful Thor betrays them, and then everyone's all infighting, and then they go through the portal and escape, I just thought he'd come along with them. Do you know what I mean? I thought it would be he betrayed them, but it's no big deal. We're all Lokis. We do it every Tuesday. Yeah. Let's just move on with the adventure. I thought it was a bit of a shame, actually, that he got pulled away from it.
Yeah.
I like that the main Loki. I don't even know what to call him now. There's so many different ones. The main Tommy Hiddleston Loki. I like that he's now kind of the superior Loki because he's the most self-aware. When they were all backstabbing each other, he was kind of looking at it why are they doing this again? But it's only because of his experience with Mobius and going through the TVA and everything we've learnt so far with him, that he's been able to now be self-aware enough to know that he's always constantly going to be, that's like a crutch of his, that he constantly backstabs anyone. And I think I like that the sort of theme of the episode was that he decides to finally sort of be in a team with Sylvie, and that's how he's going to become the most powerful Loki, if that's his purpose. Yeah.
We've had genuine, well-written moments and such a strong arc of development. When he said, I used to do these things, I used to betray the people I love, but I'm not that person anymore. I thought that was so earned. Yeah, I think it's incredible that, Loki, we've known him for years as this guy that sort of skewers the line between good and evil. Whereas in that moment, in just a couple of episodes, with this kind of offshoot Loki, I feel like he's completely earned his redemption.
Yes,
I
I agree.
can't wait to see Loki season 2. I want to keep going with this new version of this character. I'm just so impressed that they've made them interesting again in a way that I kind of thought after Ragnarok. This, like, when he died in Infinity War at the start, I thought, this is right.
Yeah.
This is right for the character. Whereas now I could see him going on for like 5 seasons of Loki who.
Definitely. And I just love that
See,
he's experienced the most conflict, like so much hardship, and that's why it feels earned, is because he's constantly been shat on the whole time and realised that he's like not even in the top 10 great Lokis. Do you know what I mean? Like he's, and maybe now he's earned that place, but only through realising that. And I think that's great. I think that's where the show's strengths have lied. Yeah. And also, I think, like you said about the multiverse thing, I just wanted to comment on that, was just that I think no one was really talking about it because everyone was so focused on these other movies that were coming out. No one was thinking, Loki, a show about Loki, a character we've had since 2012. Like, that's not, we don't really care. No one thought it was going to be a multiverse thing, per se. So I feel like it slipped under the radar because of that. And now it's the first one, and the others have got some serious competition.
Serious competition, I agree. Like Spider-Verse, what is it called? Spider-Man No Way Home has got some serious shoes to fill.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't think Loki's going to get a happy ending this season. I don't think Sylvie's going to survive. And I think he's going to have to battle with, was that all pointless, or did I learn from that? Do you know what I mean?
That's interesting. Do you not think that'd be, like, kind of fridging Sylvie?
No, because I don't believe that anything that sort of she really did affected Loki, if that makes sense. I don't think her being there affects his story. I think she has her own strong story, her own reasons for being there, and they've just happened to need each other. I really don't think that it feels like she's a character that was created to further his story.
Yeah, I think as long as it doesn't feel like they're almost like the punchline to someone else's arc.
Yeah. And I don't feel like that with Sylvie, and I feel that it would. I think that they've hammered home so much that Loki is destined to be alone that it almost feels like there's nothing he could do in the universe to change that. From seeing all the other Lokis that are again all still alone, even though they're on an existence
but I wouldn't
altogether.
say the new Lokis are alone. I think that's what was like kind of incredible about it, is that it took them being dumped at the end of the universe with no way out. Their only prerogative is to survive.
But then
that they find something in other people.
There's all sorts of infighting and like none of them can truly rely on each other or apart from maybe King Loki and Richard E. Grant's character. They seem like the only two that have like really formed an actual connection. Whereas the others,
don't forget Gator Loki.
Oh, and Gator Loki, of course, the best Loki, the funniest guy of the group.
Did you not think it was so incredibly cute when Kid Loki was sort of like cradling him?
It was the way he alligators walk like this, so it was just seeing him chase after them like.
Yeah.
So good.
Every second he was on screen, I was having a great time. When he bit King Loki's hand off, and he's like, ah!
That was great.
It was great.
I really wanted to see Captain Hook Loki after that.
Yeah.
Totally
I love that all the other Lokis are played by different actors apart from the one that is the evil one. We get another Tom Hiddleston Loki. Do you know what I mean? I like that they've not done too much. Oh, Tom Hiddleston's acting off himself. They've kept that to like a minimum.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I just think this episode is packed with so many things to talk about. Do you know what I mean? Like the appearance of the Thanos copter, the fact that Kang the Conqueror's company is on the Stark Tower, I think just all but confirms at this point. We've had so many references to Kang just rammed up the backside of this series. I'd be so shocked.
And also, Mobius is alive.
Yes, that was sweet, wasn't it, when we were watching it? And I was like, "Oh my god, that car is it? It is."
That's so sweet.
Having said that, I didn't think he had much to do in this episode.
No,
I mean,
I agree.
what can he do? He's a regular guy who works at the TVA, really. So in this universe, what can he do?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I just
hope sorry, I just hope he's got something substantial to do in the next episode. My only worry was as much as it's a good moment for him to call him his friend, I hope that's not like the end of them together.
Yeah.
For this season. Do you know what I mean? I hope something comes back in an interesting way next week. But
well, he went back to the
will.
TVA, didn't he? So I think that he will have his business at the TVA. He will be a different plot.
Yeah.
And Loki and Sylvie will have their thing where the timekeeper or where whoever is in charge is.
Oh, it's gonna be so exciting. Sylvie, Loki with his holster for his flaming sword.
Cool. That was so cool.
Yeah, I really dug that.
And can I just say, sorry, I'm excited. I'm overexcited.
Can I just say, I love how we keep cutting each other up, and then we opt to all go silent so that we don't cut each other up, and then no one speaks. I love it.
We need to bring back our cards.
We do. It's so difficult. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's
Charlie.
I was going to ask you a question. Can you guys explain to me, because I wasn't quite sure, I watched it quite late last night after the game, so I was a bit drunk. So, can you explain to me why Sylvie pruned herself? Like, how did she know, like, what did she do? What was I was confused by that.
Oh, they do, in the first scene with Ravonna and her, they kind of go over the fact that Loki's not dead, he's been sent to, like, she basically knows, before she does it, that he's there.
I see.
Yeah.
Everyone that's pruned gets sent to the void at the end of time.
I see.
So she knew that by pruning herself, she would escape and be sent to where Loki is.
Yeah.
It's weird because it kind of implies like hell exists in the Marvel universe. Like that's kind of like the equivalent, isn't it?
Would you say it's more purgatory than hell?
I guess purgatory, yeah.
Yes, because you can kind of like carve out a life for yourself there, can't you? It's just there's nothing there.
Yeah, probably purgatory.
Interesting.
It's weird.
And what did you think of Mr. Richard E. Grant?
Me?
Could be you. Could be Terry. You know what? Look.
I thought it was. I thought he was great. Like,
do you love how I actually didn't say who I was going to pick? Charlie just goes in for it. You know.
Yeah. Because
there's.
It's me, of course. This is where the people come to this.
Of course, it's you.
Yeah.
Of course, you. Maybe I was going to pick Terry.
Yeah, that'd be great. But
bros before hoes. I get it. Don't worry, I'm not offended. I'm not offended.
No, you're my bro. Charlie's my hoe. You're getting confused.
You're getting mixed up.
Then shut up, Charlie. I'm ready.
I didn't make you a cup of tea. You know.
Maybe because I'm halfway across the city, but
maybe it's your CGI sunglasses. Oh my god. It's actually so hard to tell what's CGI when you're not looking for it. Do you know what I mean?
You guys didn't realise I didn't have regular sunglasses on until I went like this.
No, like when I logged into the chat, I thought, do you know what I mean? There's something off about them, but because your brain is thinking, why would they be CGI? There must be real sunglasses. You don't register it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
you just continue on what you're doing.
I didn't want to I left my sunglasses at yours again, so I didn't want to disappoint people without having sunglasses again this week.
I think it was the right call.
Thanks. I just wanted to talk about Loki's powers, because as a D&D player, these feel really exciting. The fact that they build that, like, he's starting off and, like, it has seemed for so long that he's only had, like, sort of limited power, limited spells, and he's not that strong. But then, like, for him to see Richard E. Grant and be helped out by Sylvie, like, I imagine there's not many other sorcerers, but it feels like he's, like, a level 4 D&D sorcerer, and he's just seen, like, a level 20 sorcerer. And he's just been like, wow, those are the spells I get when I level up, and that feels really exciting.
From my perspective, and this won't show up on the podcast that you guys are watching, but I'm going to say it anyway, you started lagging as you went, wow, so it was like you went, wow, and then you went back to normal. It was quite something.
From my perspective, I did this big spiel about how much I love the powers, and you both sat there and went,
oh no! It was just at the end. I got like 90% of it. It was just when you did like the example that then everything went to shit.
Yep.
I do agree with you. I also think again, it's kind of a fanboy thing to be like, oh, we're unlocking Loki's true potential and powers. Like he's never done this before. Like that's all well and good, but it all served character to see Richard E. Grant outlive every other Loki and end up sort of reflecting on all those things and having all those regrets and him doing something genuinely selfless. I didn't think Glorious Purpose would come back in that way towards the end of the season, or at least I thought it would be more with Tom Hiddleston and Sylvia. I didn't think Richard E. Grant would get like such a beautiful arc and payoff within one episode. I'm so glad he did though. And also, I cared about him so much. Like when he actually finally bit the dust, I was like, oh.
Yes, definitely. I think he's definitely the superior Loki. And that's because of the fact that he's the most Loki. He did the most Loki things. He survived through all of them. Like you could argue, yes, the new Tom Hiddleston one is the most superior. But if we're talking about actually as Loki being Loki, he achieves everything Loki wants to do before them, lives out his life, and it's only once he's achieved everything he wants to do that he realises that it wasn't what he really wanted. What a great character. What a great character.
I also love that he does the exact same thing Thanos did. He just goes to a sanctuary, doesn't he, and like lives out his days in solitude.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Also, do you think, because obviously like Sylvie and like the more variant Lokis don't look like Tom Hiddleston, so we sort of get the implication that they look different. But is it implied that Tom Hiddleston Loki looked like Kid Loki when he was that age, and he's going to turn into Richard E. Grant when he's older? Or did you get the impression that they're just different entities? I
was thinking that, and I was, because it's hard to actually separate in your mind Richard E. Grant and Tom Hiddleston. It's hard to think of them as one person. Sorry, it's not hard to separate them. It's hard not to separate them. So, but when I was watching it, I was looking at the faces being like, I suppose you could believe that Tom Hiddleston's Loki would grow into Richard E. Grant's Loki over like a few hundred lifetimes or however long they live. So
and I can believe that with Kid Loki as well.
Yeah, exactly. Except Kid Loki is like fucking built, whereas Tom Hiddleston's not. Kid Loki is like shredded.
But he's shorter in it. They haven't stretched him out yet. The Hiddleston stretcher.
Yeah, that's how it actually happened. Thor grabbed Loki one time and just went, and then that's how they got him. You know.
I just think the whole concept of variance is so well thought out, because you can have that ghosts of past, present, and future thing where Tom Hiddleston's asking Richard E. Grant, "What did you do next?" And then you can also have, here's all these wild different versions of Loki. Here's Thor Frog. I never thought I would see Thor Frog in the MCU. And also, like, I think that just speaks to the quality of the show, that as we're panning down to another scene, we get this incredible dark joke of like that frog is in hell, isn't he? He's trapped in that little jar, and all he's doing is all day.
That frog is,
and he
Thor.
still can't get out.
And he can't get out. That is a Thor timeline. That is a timeline that happens to Thor.
Is that how big Thor is, and does he wield the hammer that size?
Yes, in the comics he does.
Sure.
In the comics he does, yeah. He's like.
And the hammer's still like normal size?
Yeah, he's got a little. No, it's like a little hammer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I quite like the idea of him being so small that it's almost more like a surfboard. Do you know what I mean? Like he's smashing into people like
Ant-Man.
He's more like the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's so funny.
What were you gonna say, Tessa?
I was thinking about Ant-Man like throwing the hammer, and then I was thinking if it was a little frog Thor.
He probably wouldn't be worthy though, would he?
Ant-Man. I mean, Paul Rudd, he's done bad things in the eyes of the law, but I don't think his name's obviously not Paul Rudd.
Scott Lang.
Scott Lang, that's it. But like, I also saw a video saying that who out the Avengers would be Marga, and why is it Scott Lang? And I was like, Scott Lang is the last person to want to be a Trump supporter, so you back up with that one right away.
Yeah.
And I think, although he does make lawfully questionable choices, I don't think he ever really makes morally questionable choices. So I believe Scott Lang would be worthy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, isn't the whole thing, because obviously, it's Hollywood. They can't just make someone
a criminal,
a thief, because they need to feed themselves because they've been, put to the wayside by the government. It has to be some sort of outlandish thing. I'm pretty sure it's something like he embezzles the company. He like Robin Hood's this company, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He takes from all like the CEOs and gives to like the workers. It's something like that. So yeah, I agree with you. There's no way that he would vote for Trump.
No, absolutely not. Cool guy. Scott Lang is a cool guy. 10 out of 10.
He's a cool guy, is he? You sure you're not just looking at Paul Rudd?
Paul Rudd's a cool guy too, but Scott Lang is probably cooler because Scott Lang's actually Ant-Man. Paul Rudd isn't. So.
Paul Rudd isn't Ant-Man?
Not
What?
IRL.
What do you mean? What does he do? Don't tell me he's one of those actors you keep going on about.
Yeah, sorry boys. Sorry to break it to you.
Next you'll be telling me all these things aren't real.
That'd be ridiculous, Matt. That'd be ridiculous.
Cancel the podcast.
We have 2 minutes left of this Zoom call, ladies and gentlemen. So I think in, a matter of seconds, you're going to see a very smooth jump cut to us reviewing Black Widow. So, Marvel's Black Widow.
I'm not looking forward to discussing this one.
I'm not looking forward to discussing this one. I'm not forward to looking to discuss this one.
But I think we're not looking forward to it for different reasons.
I'm not looking forward to it because as soon as we finished the film and I said I thought it was mediocre, our friend Sean Grimsley turned to us and went, "You obviously hate women, Matt." And as much as, he was joking, I do worry about that. When you have to say, "Oh, I didn't like Black Widow," it's like I don't want to be lumped in with people that just didn't want to like it from the start, didn't want Black Widow to get her place. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not one of those people. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know as well as anyone says, like,
No,
we want these things to be good.
No, I totally know. And I feel like I have the opposite problem, whereas I don't want to just argue and say that I love it because it was female-led.
Yeah, I see.
So I don't want you all to think I'm just doing, as some people have said, the SJW thing, where I'm like, you all hate men because you don't like this movie, because that's not the case at all. So let's just say that it was fantastic that we had a movie with so many female leads in it acting like total badasses, and we all appreciate that, and we're just going to review the movie.
Exactly, yeah. That'd be good.
100%.
I agree.
In the interest of positivity, because I can tell Charlie's already trying to bite his tongue, Teri, would you like to start off with what you liked about the movie?
Yes. Obviously, this movie was not perfect by any means. It wasn't a masterpiece, but I thought there was all the female characters were incredibly well written. Nobody was like sexualized. No, like that wasn't like relevant to the story. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, the fact that they have their organs ripped out of them and things like that. But that's relevant to the story. Like none of them were made to be like nicer for the sake of other people, which felt really real. And honestly, all women want is pockets. So I really, really related to that scene, because I'm wearing 3 layers of clothes right now and I have no pockets.
I can really empathise with all of... It is bullshit. I can empathise with all of womankind when I wear my gym shorts and then go to Asda, because I have to hold my wallet and my phone in one hand and my keys and stuff in the other hand, and then I'm constantly cradling it. I need to get a handbag for Asda trips.
Women have like mastered this, where we can like carry like multiple things at once. I
see.
So I can fit like my purse, my phone, my keys, like everything.
Oh,
I can just now squeeze it into my hand.
I guess that would be good for my yoga, Dexterity.
The first time that I realised this was an issue was when me and Matt once went to dress up as both went as Don Johnson from Miami Vice. So we wanted to get some white trousers and we couldn't find any in the men's section. So we ended up buying like white women's trousers from Primark, and we put them on, and that was the first time I'd realised, what? Why are the pockets like small? What the fuck? I think it's ridiculous. And I got told the reason for it is so that people buy handbags and shit in it.
And also because you don't want any big pockets messing up the female form so men can look at them.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening, because obviously we went to get the women's trousers because the white trousers they had there weren't tight enough, and we wanted to go full Miami Vice, so we went for like as tight as possible. And it's just a weird. It's weird being in another world where the give is different and the stretchiness is different, and it's all meant to accentuate stuff like your bum, isn't it?
Yep.
And then to not have the pockets on top, it was definitely eye-opening.
Even when I wear your coats and jackets, like even in things like coats and jackets, like I can lose my phone in your coats. I can't even fit my phone in most of my coats.
I do love a good array of pockets on a nice jacket. And
Yes.
so does Florence Pugh.
Apparently.
Sorry, this one's Pugh.
On that note you said, Terry, about kind of like talking about, you know, their ovaries being ripped out and stuff. I do think one of the strongest aspects of the film was kind of talking about the treatment of women and the parallels to that. I thought what was really interesting was the best scene in the movie for me is just the whole notion. Well, it's explored in a scene with Ray Winstone later on, but also the notion that they talk about a couple of times of consent and control amongst the Black Widows. I think it's a really interesting parallel to talk about consent with the Black Widows having all of their autonomy and free will taken away, and then when it culminates in that scene where Ray Winstone is just slapping up Natasha, and she can't even do anything. And then the bit that really got me was when he slaps her and she just goes like looks down at the ground. I'm like, this has brought like a level of reality to the comic book movie, to this comic book movie. Absolutely. And I liked that a lot. But I feel like it's constantly hampered by a weak script, ho-hum action, and I think it would honestly be a better movie if it was either more comic booky or less comic booky, but instead it sort of sits between the two. Like, it reminds me a lot of The Wolverine from 2013, where you've got quite a grounded first and second act, and then the third act we just go full comic book. Yeah. Like, Charlie went to the toilet during the film, and he came back, and I had to explain to him that, by the way, the location we're at right now is Cloud City. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, like everywhere we're at right now, everywhere we're cutting to is like in the sky. Like, but if you just missed the 30 seconds where they'd like landed, you would have no idea.
I'd never have known.
No. Not until Rachel Weisz did the Arkham City and broke the fan.
It's true. It's weird. It's a weird one because, I agree. I think that's all the best stuff in there, and I agree with you, Matt, in terms of the sense that it's the first half feels like it's trying to be like Bourne Identity. Feels like it's trying to be like a Bourne movie, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm all for that. You know, I want that to be more grounded, and then it goes a bit too crazy towards the end, where like Black Widow's like flying, soaring through the air and stuff. I just feel like we didn't need to have that, and like I think we're probably going to talk about Winter Soldier a lot because this runs a lot of parallels with that. There's a lot of similar beats in it. And I feel like what that gets right is that it does ground it. Even though we have, you know, the Winter Soldier coming around, shooting stuff and stuff, we're still... Everything's on a playing field that could just... It's just two people sort of fighting or some espionage happening. I really think, and I remember the directors at the time, Russo's at the time, saying that they watched like films like 3 Days at the Condor and they wanted it to have that kind of feel. And I feel like this movie kind of would have benefited, I feel like, from that. I feel like it would have been a better movie if it leaned more into the Bourne / stuff that it was trying to do at the start. It could still have its ideas, like it had that. I think the idea still works. With the Black Widows being controlled and stuff. I thought that was great. But I just feel like it did the third act, sort of the set pieces didn't need to be as explosion-y, and it just didn't need to be that. And I worry that's because of we had Endgame and Infinity War, that Marvel feel like they have to have everything be so big and they can't sort of strip it back again and go back to what got them there in the first place, which I think I feel like this movie needed that. I feel like it needed to feel like not the first era of the Marvel movies like the Iron Man stuff, but I feel like it needed to feel more like its own sort of separate movie that's just a kick-ass great Black Widow movie to go out on. And I feel like I didn't get that, and I feel like maybe I'd be a bit softer on it if the action delivered, but for me it just kept cutting every 5 seconds. And it's annoying me because I'm seeing that they're doing the choreography, but they're just cutting to too many different angles, and I'm just like, I think it's really doing the actors and the actresses and whoever is like disservice for learning. And I want to see the footage that comes out about like how it was originally planned, because I remember when we looked through the Falcon the Winter Soldier stuff, like the stunt guys had choreographed these great sort of action scenes, and then they kind of chopped up a little bit too much in the edit, and that was kind of a complaint. I'm curious to see how that if that's the case with this as well.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've got someone like Aaron Toney, who's Mackie's stunt double,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen his work in a multitude of things that's just utterly impeccable. And then to see the choppiness of Fagbenle Soldier, you know, like that's down to shooting and editing. It's not down to the stunt performance.
No, it's true.
And it's just a shame. I do think this movie had a real bad case of Born Identity
It did,
isms.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the cutting, and I also thought there was a really bad habit of like dush dush dush, and then like someone would get like flown into a table, and then it would go back to dush dush dush, and then someone would get like shunted somewhere, and it was just like a bit of a mess. And then again, like you said earlier with the skydiving stuff, I feel like there was this constant insecurity about Black Widow's capabilities. Like they had to keep doing things to make her feel more superhuman. Like when she was fighting Taskmaster on that bridge at the start, like they kept doing things to her that I just felt like the thing that was special about this character was that she stood toe to toe with gods, and she's just a normal, regular woman. Whereas in this one, I feel like they went out of their way to make her superhuman. They Vin Dieseled her a little bit.
I
It didn't work for me.
didn't feel that at all.
Really, did you not feel like the skydiving when she like goes through like 10 panes of glass or whatever? And
I
don't mean it in a
did
plot hole way.
I did find all the sky stuff a bit ridiculous, because there was literally like a big world plane falling down out of the sky, and it definitely would have hit somebody. Like, there's no way any of them would have survived that. Also, can I just say they did so much damage throughout the movie. They just caused, like when they had the avalanche in the prison, they just killed all those people. And they just let this like massive thing fall out of the sky and just kill, like, they didn't care. They were just like, our job's done, you know, I've got my revenge, so this is okay.
What disappointed me most about that sequence was that Black Widow's white Black Widow outfit is so dope, and she uses it for like 2 minutes of an action scene.
Yeah, I was upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, fair enough, she stays in the outfit for quite a while. That was quite cool. And I like them being at like a dinner table in their superhero outfits. I always like that as a trope. But she ends up doing very little in it. And it's like the iconic outfit of the movie. She should have been wearing it in the finale.
Absolutely. It's because they did the face swap thing, but...
Yeah, which, you know what? Not a bad idea, but what I detested about it was all the cuts back to explain how they were doing it. It's like, you don't need to do that. We get the face thing. We've seen it a million times now in the MCU. We saw it recently in Falcon Winter Soldier, so it's fine.
We believe it. We believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They spend so much time trying to convince us of things that we actually believe, that we already would suspend our disbelief for, and they haven't spent enough time on like the power levels. Like Taskmaster was fighting the super soldier, and then Black Widow could take her on.
I feel like I would have been softer on the movie if like several different things had changed about it, and maybe even one of each of these things could have changed. I would have been softer on it. For example, if it had come out in between Infinity War and Endgame, I think I would have been much softer on it. The fact that Black Widow's died, and we're just going back to this weird prequel, and then I thought the final scene was drop dead awful, where we've had our ending. And now we've cut to her looking like how she does in Infinity War. And the whole point of that scene is just to tie it together. Like, all she does, she talks to that guy, and then she goes, right, now it's time to find the other Avengers. And then she walks over to the jet. It's like, there's no metatextual goodbye to the character. If this is the last time Scarlett Johansson's doing this, then shouldn't she deserve a little bit more fanfare to the ending of the movie? You know, in the same way that Chris Evans did, in the same way that Robert Downey Jr. did. Like, the fact she didn't get a funeral in Endgame, and at the time Marvel was saying, well, we're going to explore that more in Black Widow, as she's going to get more of an ending. I'm like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
She doesn't get an ending at all.
I would be happy with it if it weren't the last thing she is ever going to do, really.
I agree. That is partly why I think it's hard to watch for me.
Yes.
Is like, this is the equivalent of like Black Widow's Endgame, in terms of like, do you know what I mean? Like what Endgame is to Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, and it's just like a throwaway. Like, also, all of the conflict in this is a reopened wound that was supposedly closed. Like, they have to retcon that Dreykov and his daughter are alive to make it work.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that they talk about in Post and Avengers. Also, maybe this is a terrible idea. I said this in an old video essay about 2 years ago. Is that I would have much preferred, rather than a prequel, we actually follow Black Widow after her death.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the MCU, right? I'm sure someone at the MCU has seen It's a Wonderful Life, all right? And I don't see why you couldn't have just taken that template. She's in the Soul Stone, right? What if the Soul Stone has a conscience and goes, you're dead, and I'm going to take you around the universe because it turns out this thing from your past has not been resolved and I want you to resolve it. And she could have then found out about the Red Room like that. Also, I think it would be interesting to set it apart from Winter Soldier to come off the back of a really, really cosmic part of her life and still have that be baked into the story, but have it be about a really grounded thing. Like, through the Soul Stone, we learn about the Black Widow program. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with space. It doesn't go, like, big. It starts big, and then it immediately zeroes in on it.
It's funny you said that, because I think that sounds very similar to Loki, actually, funny enough, what you just described.
I suppose so, yeah. Yeah. I suppose so.
Which is interesting that you said that's interesting. I just wanted to say... I just wanted to quickly jump in there just because you made a good point and I just wanted to jump on it. Was that you said about not getting the good ending that we kind of wanted, the hopeful ending. To me, this whole movie felt like just more than a Natasha Romanoff send off. It felt more like a Florence Pugh's character start. Like it felt like it was all about her. Really, it felt like it was trying to set her up rather than give Black Widow her definitive ending kind of thing.
I don't see why we couldn't have just had the original Black Widow story. Do you know what I mean? Like her time at in the program and like her all those things that she is going through. Like I don't see. Or I would have just been happy with like somebody showing up and being like, "Hey, we hear you're a good spy. Come spy for us." And then she just goes on like a cool dope ass mission. I would have been happy with that.
It's confusing to me this many years after Civil War to make a sequel to Civil War. And like it's not in the same way that Loki is a sequel to the Avengers, because it's simultaneously a sequel to the Avengers and a sequel to Endgame. This is just a sequel to Civil War. There's nothing tying in Endgame into it other than the post-credit scene. And it just feels really weird. It feels like this came out too late. Or you should have made a more interesting premise for your Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
Like you know, going off this Soul Stone thing, what if Florence Pugh was kind of, she's in the physical world, right? She's mourning Natasha's death, and then Natasha contacts her through the Soul Stone, and it's kind of like, you know, that sort of trope in things where one of them's doing the physical stuff in the reality, and the other person's like walking around talking to them. Kind of like Joker in Arkham Knight. I think you could have done something like that. Yeah, and then I think that would have been interesting, because what is Natasha as a character if she can't punch characters? If she can't punch other people? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's strip her down to like who is she as a person and let this new Black Widow do all the fighting. I think that would have been a really interesting dynamic. But instead it's just like, it's all the stuff you've seen before. To quote the commentator during the football yesterday when we thought we were going to lose, this is a ride you've been on before. You've been on it many times.
Wow.
It's true.
But you know what? Look, Made My Ideas absolute horseshit, and they were right to set a movie in between two other movies 4 years after it came out. But you know,
do you know what my super hot take on this is?
Go on.
Would have been better as a video game.
That's interesting.
I mean, that's my take on everything. But that's
would have been better if I could have interacted with it.
Well, yeah, imagine like you're running around in that white suit as Black Widow, and then you're like flying through the sky, and like you're fighting Taskmaster, and they're like mimicking what you're doing. So you have to, in your mind, like figure out a different fighting way to fight them. Like, I think that would be so cool.
Well, I think it's funny you say that, because I think that the reason you say that is because this is like, it is video gamey, that end thing, and it doesn't need to be that. It's a movie, and I think that's part of the problem with it.
I disagree with that, because I do think that video games are more and more folding into the cinematic and the TV world, and they take their cues from films, and films take their cues from video games. So I think the mediums are getting closer, and I do think that it is pretty cool, because you know, we're getting more video gamey scenes in films and more filmy scenes in video games, which I
think it's more like Edge of Tomorrow does that for me.
Yeah.
Good. This is like why like it's a frustrating thing to criticize the skydiving bit, because I understand, you know, we're in the MCU, and if surely someone could go, well, if you're okay with Loki getting slapped around by the Hulk, surely you're okay with Black Widow going through these panes of glass. But it's just like, what I think's interesting about her is that she can't do those things. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
You know, that's what the movie should have explored. The fact that, you know, it kind of touches on it in lines of dialogue. Like, I'm sure gods from space don't need an ibuprofen afterwards, but it's not explored through the story.
No, it's true.
I suppose.
I would
Also, I thought
agree
it was
with
really disempowering to have the excuse for why Ray Winstone hasn't gone after Black Widow this whole time has been because one of the big ones might go after him. Like, I just think it's just funny that this film's supposed to be like feminist, and then it's saying like, oh, Black Widow was protected by Iron Man and Thor, and now that they're gone, like, now suddenly Ray Winstone's after her. Like, she's fucking Black Widow.
But I think that's...
Black Widow's coming after you, Ray Winstone. It's got nothing to do with Thor.
I think that says
Sorry.
more about Ray Winstone's character. I think that might have been a deliberate thing. He's dismissed her. Do you know what I mean? He's dismissed her because that's the kind of man he is. That is the kind of man he is. He doesn't think that any of these women...
oh, once I've got an Avenger, you know what I mean, I'll be able to do so much more. So he obviously values her.
Yeah, I think maybe it was more of a belittling. I don't think was written in because that's what the writers believed. I think that is that's a character thought, not a writer thought, if that makes sense.
I also think the thing that really bothered me was there's 2 Winter Soldiers in the movie. There's the actual Winter Soldier ripoff, Taskmaster, who is almost one-to-one, just the same story as the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's the same.
Old person they knew from their past, thought they were dead, turns out they're not dead, they kind of have memories of their old life, but they're also brainwashed, and they pop up in the movie at random times to come and kill the main character.
And they're part
it's the
human,
same
part
thing.
tech.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. The only thing that's different about them is they mimic the moves, which, to be honest, I don't think was really explored much, if at all.
It would have been so much cooler if they'd explored that.
Yeah, and also she doesn't mimic Taskmaster's moves in the finale or anything like that in an interesting way to sort of beat her. Do you know what I mean? There's no like.
Doesn't get.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a thing that she does.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And then you have the second Winter Soldier, which is a collective of Winter Soldiers in the Black Widows. I think they're really disappointing in the movie because they go on about how incredible they are. Where's the show don't tell? Where's the scene where 10 Black Widows infiltrate like an embassy and overnight change the geopolitical landscape of a country? That's what I want to see. Do you know what I mean? I want to see how dangerous these Black Widows are instead of me getting Winter Soldier 2.0 with Taskmaster, and then at the end they come in and start fighting Black Widow, and what happens again? We've already had it for like the 3rd time at that point. The vials get thrown, and they burst everywhere, and then the Black Widows are instantly cured, and that happens so many times in the movie. It kills the tension of the scene.
Yeah, there was lacking tension with a lot of it.
And it's frustrating, because I don't want to go in on this movie, do you know what I mean? There's no joy in saying Black Widow's shit, right? Because some people are going to go after you on the internet saying that you hated it because it's Black Widow. And then other people, even if you say positive things, are going to say you're just pandering the things that you said you liked about Black Widow. So it's it's the perfect movie to put you in a complete bind no matter what you say. Yeah. I think the problem with it ultimately is that it's so painfully mediocre and average that we'll all forget about it in a year's time. And I think it's going to be like a footnote on the MCU when it could have been the $1 billion Marvel movie. It would have been in 2019.
Yeah.
I'm very sad.
But you did like it.
I did.
Overall.
I did like it overall. I had a fun time watching it. I felt empowered by a bunch of really badass women. And you know what? It was a tiny detail, but I really loved at the end how they all like had their makeup like smudged. Because like you guys have seen me at the end of the day when I'm wearing makeup, it does not last all day, and it definitely wouldn't last during a fight. Yeah. So it's the little details like that that I think really made it for me. Yeah. And also I really liked the super soldier character. And I didn't like him as a character, but I thought he did like a good job of like the way he spoke to the girls was such an echo
of David Harbour.
Red Guardian.
Yes, the Red Guardian.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if you meant Taskmaster.
No.
I see.
the Red Guardian. It just echoes how men speak to young women all the time, and you know, when he was like, "Oh, are you on your period or something?" and she's like, "No, I had my ovaries ripped out." And it's funny because men are so quick to like say those things, but then don't want to have the discussions that make them uncomfortable around it. So I thought those interactions were really interesting.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think there were some good, genuine interactions.
Yeah.
Sorry, Charlie, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I feel like the best stuff in the movie was the family stuff, where we sort of sat with them for a bit and just had them talk out their issues with each other. I thought that was really interesting, and we got a really good insight into all these characters and their kind of weird family dynamic. I liked that the movie took the time to slow down and do that. I just feel like I would wish it delivered everywhere else. I feel like the standouts for me were Florence Pugh and David Harbour in this movie. I feel like I do feel like at moments Natasha didn't have much to do. The Black Widow, I feel like she kind of got sidelined in her own movie at points. Although the standout moment for me, if we're talking about favourite moments of Black Widow, was when she's like, "We've got to sever the nerve," and just fucking headbutts the floor and breaks her nose. I feel like that could have been that. Although at the same point, it could frustrate me because I feel like that could have been better than how it played out. I feel like it could have been even more badass from the way it played out, but it kind of, I felt that things sort of went past me instead of giving me some tension in a lot of the scenes. And I just was a little bit confused by things like David Harbour's character, what's his name?
Guardian.
Red Guardian.
Red Guardian.
He seems so he has super strength, right? And he's fighting Taskmaster and sort of kind of struggling, whereas like Black Widow's fighting Taskmaster and doing the same sort of stuff, and I'm kind of confused with the strength level of Taskmaster in that sense. I know I'm talking parallels, but like there was things like that where I was like, I don't quite like. I know they can mimic the moves of people and stuff, but it didn't play enough. They just sort of mentioned it, and then it happened a couple of times when it was convenient, but then it didn't. They didn't really solve it. They didn't solve that issue by calling back to it or finding the flaw in that. And I just think it's a weird thing to bring that in and not have that be, resolved, if that makes sense, in the finale.
Yeah, I feel like parts of it feel a bit phoned in, and I feel like it feels like we've been waiting for it for ages because it got delayed well over a year, but if I think about when it was actually meant to come out, it just feels like a weird epilogue to Endgame.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that they've done her a disservice by releasing it this late, because as you said, nobody really cares. Like we're all looking forward to the next phase. Like, why are we going backwards now? That's not what anybody wants. We're all done with Endgame. We've sealed that off. We've said goodbye. Give us the next stuff now. I
also think like the flashback in Age of Ultron, where like they're all ballerinas and Julie Delpy's training them. I was like, that's cool. And then you get none of that. This is supposed to be the origin of Black Widow. I see very, very little Black Widowing in the movie. Like, by the time we get to the Red Room, I just feel like we're told a lot about how incredible they are and how torturous the Red Room is, but I don't feel like the movie really digs into it in a satisfying way.
What I kind of want is a less upskirty sucker punch-esque vibe to the Red Room, and like maybe Black Widow wasn't even about our Black Widow, because they're all Black Widows, aren't they? Maybe it was about girls in the Black Widow program escaping or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more interesting stuff within her life that, like, I'm sorry, but you lived with these people for 3 years when you were a kid, and now they're your family and it's all you've ever thought about. Like, did they never go on other missions? Did they,
It's a weird... Like, I understand the whole point is that, like, we weren't really a family. Like, it's all fake. But I still feel like they're only together for 3 years out of her life. And as an origin, there's so much more that I would prefer to see than this kind of... It is a retconned bit of her history, isn't it? We've never heard about these characters before. Now they've all just been sandwiched in. I almost think a stronger movie would have just been... Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson. As much
Yeah.
as I thought Rachel Weisz had a good role in it,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like we're introducing all these characters all the time when Black Widow has literally T-minus 2 hours until she never turns up again.
Yeah.
No,
literally.
it's so true.
I
We're
also
digging
think,
into her, not like all these extra new characters.
yeah, I do also think as well, like, I think that the fact they're going back, obviously, is part of the problem, but I do also think that doesn't mean they can't give us a fucking kick-ass solo movie with Black Widow. Like, I was sitting there watching it, and there was parts where it kept making me think, like, I feel like this could have benefited from almost, like, a Kill Bill influence, in the sense that, like, there's all these fucking badass women assassins that are, like, coming after each other. Like, I feel like you could have really leaned in on, like, these different other Black Widows that are, you know, coming after them and stuff. And I feel like you could have really made it super exciting. Like, and the action, I just feel like it could have been so... I feel like it really could have blown people out the water with this and justified its existence. And instead it didn't do that. It just gave us another sort of mediocre Marvel movie. Whereas I feel like it was an opportunity to be like, okay, this is the last hurrah for Black Widow. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's make her the fucking biggest badass female character in the MCU. Let's make her the biggest badass character in the MCU. Let's just like make it a complete assassin movie where they're doing espionage. They're trying to take each other out. I just feel like that you could have just
Actually
stripped it down
make it
to
like
that.
Bond.
Yeah, we're not even like Bond.
Because it's nothing like Bond.
No.
There's no espionage. There's no like. What I wanted to see was Scarlett Johansson doing like super spy stuff. Like she turns up in like evening wear at some sort of fancy function, and she's like doing like a Mission Impossible heist with like Florence Pugh, and then you know the Black Widows are on their tail and all that sort of stuff. I just feel like you could have done so many more fun things with the concept that she is not only a superhero but a spy, and instead it just plays out like a regular MCU movie. Also, strip Taskmaster out, all the Taskmaster stuff, get rid of it.
Yeah.
And the Black Widow squad should be the Terminators. They should be the ones chasing them.
But not even that, you can make them their own personalised characters. Like, you know, like I was talking about Kill Bill, like you could have like an Oren Ishii and you know what I mean? And like, and all these different like distinctive, they're masters of assassins in their own fields. They're the other Black Widows. Do you know what I mean? They're the other Natashas.
This Black Widow's the master of disguise. This Black Widow
you could have
is
some right
unparalleled with knives. And
exactly, because I could totally believe that that Beatrix Kiddo was in the Black Widow program. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like you could have really gone in on that, and it was kind of upsetting because I was like, yeah, there's some good ideas there and then, but it all just doesn't come in together, and as a bit of wet action for a movie that is an action movie, you have to deliver on that as well for me. But yeah, it's a shame.
I think what I would have liked to have seen from the Black Widows is like, you know, that character in John Wick 3 that fanboys over John Wick.
Yeah.
I think that line in the movie where Florence Pugh's like, you know, I might be a killer, but you know, you're a killer who has their face over all like magazines. All these girls look up to you. I think it would have been a nice parallel for her to have that line, and then have the actual Black Widows that are killing her talk about her in a way that she's like a legend in the Black Widow program. Do you know what I mean? Because like she's not just a Black Widow; she is the Black Widow, the original, you might say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I didn't get that presence over it either.
No, it's true.
I think we've got less than a minute to go, so I think it's time we wrap up.
I was just about to say I don't think I'm ready for the Disney takeover where they take over all our media, because I was very aware that we went from watching Loki on the TV to Black Widow in the cinema.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I feel like I have content crammed into my brain. Like, that's why I can't synopsize, because I can't remember, because we watched so much Marvel.
You can't synopsize because I put you on the spot and make you feel uncomfortable, and I'm sorry. And next week, I'm going to give you a heads up to snop the plot for the Loki finale.
I'm going to be ready. I'm going to write notes.
Amazing. Well, this has been the Full Fat Podcast. I could cut out at any second now. If you want to catch us on Instagram or Twitter, read what's in front of the screen. I'm not going to go through it. Goodbye.
Ta-ta.